My mother-in-law Helen insisted on deep cleaning my home office while I was on a 24-hour shift. Just helping out, Mark dear. Make sure everything's perfect for Sarah's promotion party. She'd cooed over the phone. I thanked her, a prickle of unease. The next day, an hour before the party, as I was setting up a slideshow of Sarah's achievements, my work laptop, containing a critical incident report I'd just finished, crashed, displaying a virus warning I'd never seen. Helen, standing nearby feigning shock, immediately suggested, "Oh dear, maybe Arthur's old spare laptop will work. He just wiped it." 45 minutes later, after frantic, failed attempts on Arthur's deliberately hobbled machine, a crucial presentation slide for Sarah's own career highlight was mysteriously corrupted, just as she was about to show her visiting supervisor. Thanks to Helen, helpfully plugging in a suspect USB drive. My wife looked crestfallen, her mother looked anything but. The metallic taste of betrayal hit me harder than any backdraft. On the surface I was calm, focused on damage control for Sarah. Just a technical glitch, honey, we'll show them later. But inside, the alarm bells were screaming. This wasn't an accident. This was targeted. I'd seen signs of Helen's disapproval for years. There was the time she'd loudly wondered at a family dinner if I was really suited for the stress of being a fire captain, suggesting a safer, more respectable desk job, or how she'd consistently refer to my promotions as just getting lucky, rather than a result of hard work and passing grueling exams. And just last month, her comment about Sarah, deserving someone who's actually home at night, aimed squarely at my shift work. For this party, Helen had insisted on inviting her friend whose son was a very successful and available cardiologist. A not-so-subtle dig, and her over-enthusiastic offer to organize my digital files before the party, which I'd politely declined, now felt sinister. Sarah and I met 7 years ago at a charity chili cook-off. My station had a booth, hers the hospital. I was sweating in my turnout gear after a demonstration. She laughed and handed me a bottle of water. Her smile, her easy laugh, I was a goner. We dated for a year, got engaged during a quiet hike in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and married 6 months later. Those early days were a whirlwind of shift schedules, stolen moments, and a deep, quiet understanding. She saw the man behind the uniform, and I saw the strength beneath her gentle exterior. Our best moments were simply cooking dinner together after a long shift. A hand squeeze across a crowded room, the quiet comfort of knowing the other person just got it. My background was working class. My dad was a mechanic, my mom a waitress. I joined the fire academy straight out of high school. It was a calling. The prices, on the other hand, came from comfortable, white-collar stock. Arthur owned a small but profitable accounting firm before retiring. Helen was a respected Cephon and somewhat feared English teacher. They valued advanced degrees and quiet suburban success. My physically demanding, inherently dangerous, and not always glamorous job was a source of quiet friction. It wasn't what they'd envisioned for Sarah. When we bought our modest townhouse, Arthur had casually remarked, "A bit of a fixer-upper, isn't it? You know, Sarah's used to more space." The term, first responder discount, wasn't something they seemed to appreciate. Helen's interference was subtle at first. She'd call Sarah right when I got home from a grueling 48-hour tour, complaining about some minor ailment, monopolizing her time. She'd forget to include me in invitations to family-only brunches where my presence was clearly appropriate. And she constantly praised Sarah's ex-boyfriend, Michael, a dentist with such a stable, predictable schedule. The sabotaged presentation laptop, however, wasn't subtle. It was a declaration of war. The damage to Sarah's party presentation was the ignition point. The day after the party, I took the laptop straight to David Rodriguez, my second, in command and a whiz with anything tech. "Personal emergency, Dave. Need you to run a full diagnostic. See if anything was intentionally introduced." My fire station instincts for scene assessment kicked in. Look for the point of origin. Identify the accelerant. Dave called a few hours later. "Chap, this is weird. There's a sophisticated piece of malware. Looks like it was deployed via a remote access tool. But there's also a ghost partition that was wiped clean just before the virus activated. Someone knew what they were doing. The first piece of evidence. Then I remembered Helen asking for my Wi-Fi password the day she cleaned, claiming her phone data was low. The second. And Sarah mentioned Arthur had been practicing with some new data wiping software on his old computers recently. The third piece clicked into place. It was premeditated, a coordinated attack. This wasn't just petty dislike, this was malicious. I initially suspected they wanted to erase my incident report, but crippling Sarah's moment. That was a new level of cruelty. I needed an ally who understood the family dynamic. Sarah's older brother Tom had moved overseas partly to escape Helen's control. I called him. Tom, something bad happened. I think your mom sabotaged my work and Sarah's presentation. Tom wasn't entirely surprised. Doesn't shock me, Mark. Mom's always had a way of course-correcting things she doesn't like. When I wanted to study music, she accidentally sent my application to a business school instead. Said it was a clerical error. But this sounds worse. Look, a few years ago, Dad got this fancy home security system. Cloud storage, the whole 9 yards. He's always bragging about it. If Helen was in your office, or Arthur was on his PC acting shady, it might have caught something. This was huge, a new avenue for investigation. Tom gave me the login credentials, which Arthur, in a rare moment of trust, had shared with him for emergency access. With Tom's info, I accessed their security system's cloud storage. It took hours sifting through mundane footage. Then, bingo. Helen in my office. Not cleaning, but meticulously photographing something on my laptop screen with her phone before plugging in a small, unmarked USB. Another clip showed Arthur at his computer, clearly watching an online tutorial on using remote access software, then testing it on an old machine. Then, the most damning, Helen and Arthur in their kitchen, the night before the party. Helen. The cleaning is done. He won't suspect a thing when his report vanishes. And Arthur, you're sure that little gift for Sarah's computer will work. Arthur. Positive. It'll look like his faulty equipment caused the problem for her big moment. Double whammy. The casual cruelty in their voices was sickening. These were the core, irrefutable pieces of evidence. The anger was a controlled burn now, fueling a cold resolve. My initial shock gave way to a chilling clarity. This wasn't just about disliking my job, it was about control. About undermining Sarah's faith in me, maybe even our marriage. I considered going straight to Sarah, but this was too big, too devastating. She loved her parents. I needed a plan, a protocol. Just like for a 5-alarm fire assess, contain, then extinguish. I meticulously documented everything, screenshots of the security footage, David's technical report on my laptop, a timeline of events. I even re-examined the spare laptop Arthur offered. It was riddled with so much bloatware and ancient drivers it was designed to fail. I started by talking to Sarah. Not about her parents directly, but about the laptop incident. Honey, David found malware on my computer. He said it was deliberately installed. Sarah was horrified. Deliberately. Who would do that? I gently steered her. I don't know, but it feels targeted. And the timing, right before your presentation with Arthur's laptop also failing. I let her connect the dots. It took a few days. I showed her David's report. Then, hesitantly, a still image from the security footage, Helen at my desk. Sarah's initial reaction was denial, then tears. My mom. But why? I explained what I suspected, that it was a pattern. Slowly, as the evidence mounted and the initial shock wore off, her eyes hardened. They've always tried to guide me, she admitted. But this is something else. She was with me. With Sarah on board, we prepared our presentation. We compiled all the digital evidence onto a secure tablet, video clips, David's report, even old emails where Helen had subtly undermined me. Our strategy. Present it calmly, factually, like an after-action report, letting the evidence speak for itself. We decided to do it at their house, on their turf, but on our terms. We also discovered more. Sarah remembered Helen borrowing her spare apartment key months ago and forgetting to return it for weeks. During that time, some important mail regarding a joint investment Sarah and I were making had gone missing. forcing us to miss a deadline. Helen had then suggested we use her, more reliable, financial advisor. We also found out from Sarah's friend, Dr. Emily Carter, that Helen had been spreading rumors at the hospital where Sarah worked that I was irresponsible, and that Sarah was unhappy. This wasn't just about the party. This was a long-term campaign. Helen's motive was clear: a desperate, twisted need to control Sarah's life, to break us up so Sarah would return to their idea of a suitable life. We called for a family meeting. Mom, Dad, we need to talk. Something serious, Sarah said, her voice firm. The atmosphere at their house was thick with unspoken tension. Arthur blustered. If this is about that unfortunate computer glitch. Helen chimed in. Yes, Mark, perhaps your equipment isn't up to par. The denial had begun. Actually, I said, connecting the tablet to their big screen TV, it's about a series of deliberate actions. We played the first clip. Helen at my desk. Her smile froze. I was just tidying. Then came the audio from their kitchen. Helen turned pale. Arthur started to stammer. We showed them David's report. We laid out the timeline, the missing mail, Emily Carter's statement about the hospital rumors, each piece of evidence chipped away at their facade. Sarah was incredible. Mom, Dad, how could you? This isn't guidance. This is sabotage. You tried to ruin Mark's career, and you tried to sabotage my party, my promotion. Her voice broke, but she didn't back down. Arthur finally cracked. Helen, she gets ideas. She just wants what's best for you, Sarah. Helen, however, cornered and exposed, lashed out. It's not right for you. A firefighter, always in danger, never home. You deserve better. The full scope of their manipulation, the long-term campaign, the casual cruelty, it was all out in the open. Sarah looked at her parents, not with hatred, but with a profound sadness and a new steely resolve. What's best for me is my husband, my life, my choices, and you don't get to undermine that anymore. Helen finally deflated. The fight gone out of her, replaced by a dawning, horrified understanding of what she'd risked and lost. The sanction was unspoken but clear. We weren't cutting them off, but the dynamics had irrevocably shifted. No more unquestioned access, no more casual dropping by. All communication would be through Sarah, and visits would be on our terms. We established firm boundaries, no more unsolicited advice, no more criticism of my job or our life choices, and absolutely no unsupervised time around any future children until trust could, if ever, be rebuilt. Helen initially tried to test these boundaries with tearful phone calls to Sarah, but Sarah, now fully aware, held firm, supported by me. Mom, we've discussed this. These are the rules now. Our marriage, forged in fire long before this, felt stronger, tempered like steel. We focused on us, on our life. We started planning a real vacation. Something we'd put off for years. The small routines, sharing coffee before my shift, her welcoming me home took on a deeper meaning. We were a team, indivisible. A few months later, Arthur called me. It was awkward. Mark, Helen's well, she's not herself. But there's a city council proposal to cut funding to Station 12. My old golf buddy is on the council. I made a few calls. Put in a good word. About the essential work you all do. It wasn't an apology, but it was something. An acknowledgement. A small sign that maybe, just maybe, a new foundation could be laid, however slowly. The funding cut was indeed averted. I knew Arthur's call, while not a direct win, signified they understood the new power dynamic. We had won by protecting our home, our careers, our sanity. I found a quiet peace. The anger had receded, leaving a sense of clarity. My value wasn't determined by their approval, but by my actions, by the life Sarah and I were building. Helen and Arthur never truly changed their core beliefs, but they changed their behavior. They respected the lines we'd drawn. The true victory wasn't in their defeat, but in our resilience, in the strength of our bond, and in reclaiming our right to live our lives on our own terms. That was the wisdom gained. A true captain doesn't just fight fires, he protects his crew and defends his home, calmly and decisively, against any threat.